I can play the scale. A little cumbersome because now I've got my fingers here and I got to move over to this position. If I absolutely had to play a B major scale and I didn't want to move my hands, I could put it in a different place in the fretboard. So here's the A string. That's pretty close to B. So B is 2 frets up. It's a whole step. From A up to B, B flat. Here's B. Right? So if I build my scale here, I would not be able to use any open strings. All fretted. If I do all fretted, I'm going to go B, whole, whole, half, whole, 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 half. First one is whole step to C sharp. What's the next note? Okay, everybody, just trust me. Everybody in the room, yell as loud as you can. D sharp. Ready, go. D sharp! Okay, we're almost there. We're on the home stretch. Ready? B. Whole step above that is. Now, the next note, a whole step above that is D sharp. We could go here, but couldn't we also do D and half step above D, the Eddie 8 dynamite? So can't I go D sharp here? So I could go B, C sharp, D sharp. Does that make sense? Yeah? E, half step. Now we need 3 holes. Whole step up to F sharp. The next whole step would be to G sharp, but we said goodbye to Eddie, so I could go G sharp here, A sharp, and now a half step to B, which could also be this open B. Now when you practice guitar for a long time and you get into it and you start doing your scales, you can do all in one thing. Notice my fingers, each finger kind of is assigned a fret. You don't have to remember this. This is something for way down the road, but showing you that it's a lot easier to play the scale like this. Because I don't have to move my wrist around. So B, C sharp, D sharp, E, F sharp, G sharp, A sharp, B. La, whole, whole, half, half, whole, half, whole. Notice my hand's not moving. You do it on one string, you know, it's a little more cumbersome. Or even the bottom two like we started. Artistically, you kind of want to be able to do all 3 of those versions in other ways. But it's easier to do, you know, if you're just, you know, use that one hand position thing. That's what separates the fretboard from the keyboard. Keyboard kind of has one way of doing it. Boom. Does that make sense so far? Okay. Okay, so the next segment is on the term scale degree. Now, with scale degree, what we're talking about is the number position in the scale. So let's talk with the C major scale, because there's no sharps, no flats, it's all the white keys, right? So everybody just say the letters for me of the C major scale. Let's recite it together. Ready? C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. Perfect, okay? No problem, everybody understands that, right? And we built that by going with what formula? Whole, whole, half, whole, 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 half. The first scale degree of the scale is C. Okay? The second scale degree is D, E, F, G, A, and B. So scale degree is the spot in the scale of the note. Now, sometimes we'll use the term, we'll phrase it like this. Like if I say, what's the 5th note of C? Now, when I say it that way, I'm implying I'm talking about the C major scale. Okay? Because remember I said there's a lot of stuff where it's implied, where we don't have to say natural, you can just imply it. So if I say, what's the 5 of C, or what's the 5th of C? What I'm saying is, in the C major scale, what's the 5th scale degree? What note is on the 5th scale degree? So it'd be G. What's the 5 of C? C, D, E, F, G. So the 5 of C is G. What's the 2 of C? C, D, E. What's the 7 of C? Wait a second, don't blurt it out. The 7 of C, C, D, E, F, G, B. So the scale degree is the position of the note on that major scale. So take a look at this chart. It's showing us the C, D, E, F, G, and showing the number system. Even the top C is 1, as well as the bottom C is 1. Okay? The intervals form between the first note of a scale. I'm looking at the final paragraph right now. The intervals form between the first note of a scale and any of its tones without altering, like sharpening or flattening, are called diatonic intervals. So let me unpack that sentence for you for a second. The word diatonic is similar to the word chromatic. We learned the word chromatic earlier, meant all 12. Chromatic means we're using all 12 slices in this particular piece of music. Diatonic says we're going to only use the notes of that major scale. Diatonic means of the major scale. Okay? Because remember, that major scale has 7 notes. There's 5 more. So if we say diatonic, we're saying we're excluding those other 5. We're only talking about these 7. And the intervals are the intervals of the major scale when we say diatonic intervals. Okay? So right now, if you go from C to E flat, that's not a diatonic interval. That might be 3 half steps from C to E flat, but E flat is not part of the C major scale. So C to E flat is 3 half steps. 3 half steps is not a diatonic interval, but 4 half steps is, because from C up 4 half steps is E, right? And E is the 3rd scale degree of C. So I'm going to say that again. You with me? Yeah. Okay. We're defining diatonic intervals. Intervals are the distance between any 2 notes. Diatonic means only of the major scale, excluding the others. The C major scale, as an example, doesn't have any sharps or flats. So if we were describing the interval between C and E flat, it would not be a diatonic interval, because E flat is not part of the C major scale. Yeah? Between C and E flat is how many half steps? Don't everybody shout at once. It gets very confusing. Okay, from C to E flat, look at the thing. From C up to C sharp, up to D, up to E flat, that's 3 half steps. Okay? So 3 half steps is not a diatonic interval because E flat's not part of the C major scale. What is the 4 half steps above C note? 4 half steps. C sharp, D, D sharp, E. E is part of the C major scale, right? Now, don't everybody talk at once. It's very confusing. Like, whoa, it's like, hey, right? What note is 4 half steps above C? E. What scale degree is E? It's the 3rd scale degree. What scale degree is A in the C major scale? 6. How many half steps is that? 5 is the wrong answer. 6 is the wrong answer. How many half steps between C and A? 9. 9 is the right answer. 9 is the right answer. Okay, so the 6th scale degree of the major scale is 9 half steps. Don't expect you to memorize that. I want you to understand the principle. Okay, those are diatonic intervals. Intervals that are of the major scale. Okay, now the first note of the major scale is sometimes called the root. It's also sometimes called the tonic. Okay? And the 8th note of the major scale is called the octave. We've already talked about the octave, but now you get a little more perspective on it. Okay? So how many half steps? We're almost done, guys. Bear with me. How many half steps between the root and the octave? She got it. Somebody else got it. If I say the word 12, does everybody say I totally understand, Austin? You honest with me? The distance between the root and the octave is 12 half steps, right? Because how many slices in Western music? 12. Yeah. Okay. A couple more. If I go from the root to the 7th scale degree, think about it. If I go from the root to the 7th scale degree, how many half steps? 11. 1 less than 12. The end of the formula, whole, whole, half, whole, 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 half. The final bit of the formula between the 7th and 8th scale degree is a half step. So if the octave is 12, the 7th scale degree is 11. And I'm saying this way on purpose because it's good to look at it from all these different angles as we progress further. Okay? So some of what I just said, I want you to rewatch because I'm getting a few cow-eyed looks from a couple of folks going, what in the world are you smoking, buddy? Okay? So we're going to unpack this a little bit more. I want you to watch it a couple times. Maybe slow it down with the YouTube button. And then if it still doesn't make sense, ask me some questions on the forum. We're about to close.